and assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Indulge with ET. Today we're going to be making Hausa Koko, also known as Koko Mewa. To make this recipe, we're going to need the following ingredients: some millet, a combination of spices here, black pepper, some wentia, also known as kimba in Hausa. In English, it's also known as Negro pepper. We have some cloves as well, fresh ginger, and some dried chilli. So to begin with, we're going to wash our millet before soaking it overnight. As you can see inside, we have some corn and some other foreign objects. We don't want all of this, so we're going to wash it thoroughly and remove any foreign particles. So into this pot, I'm going to add my millet and then add some water to give it a good clean. As you can see, there is so much dust in here. Most likely it was drying out in the open and has been exposed to weather and other elements. Here I have some water. I'm going to just add that into this pot. Let a good cleaning. So before me I have some water and I have my soaked millet. And I have what we call a korea, which is a calabash bowl. And I'm going to use a traditional method to clean my millet. To begin, I'm going to collect some millet, pour out the water, and then go ahead to submerge it into some fresh water. Now I'm going to pour the millet into the palm of my hand and search for any stones, possible pieces of maize and sorghum. It's likely that your millet has been sold with these other grains, and so you might find bits and pieces of them in your batch. As you can see, there are stones settling at the bottom of my calabash, and so do well to remove all of them. Please take your time to remove these stones, otherwise you're most likely going to spoil your blender. Trust me, I learned the hard way. Wash your millet thoroughly and pour in some fresh water and allow it to soak overnight. This will ensure that the millet is hydrated the next morning, which will make it easier for us to blend. It's the next morning and our millet has been soaking overnight. Fermentation has taken place, and what we have on top is a whole lot of bubbles, and the liquid has begun to develop a sweet taste. So what we're going to do next is sieve out our millet and prepare it for the blending process. Now that our millet has been strained, we're going to incorporate our spices. As introduced yesterday, we're going to be using some dried chili, some black peppercorns, some Negro pepper, and some cloves, and of course fresh ginger. You can add more or less of these spices depending on your own taste. I don't like my koko to be too spicy, so I go easy on the dried chili and the ginger. I have 2 toddlers at home who absolutely love koko. Of course, I want them to be able to enjoy it. So now I'm going to wash my ginger before peeling it. Make sure I get rid of as much of that dirt as possible. This ginger is as organic as it gets. The flavor really hits. A really simple way to peel ginger is with a spoon. It saves quite a bit of time. It saves a lot of ginger as well. Don't be too particular. You can leave some of the skin on, of course, as long as the dirt is washed off. So today I'm going to be using my Joy blender to do the blending. It's a multifunctional blender. It has 15 speeds and a pulse option. My measuring cup is half a cup, and so I'm putting in about 4 cups in total of millet. Then I'm going to add some sliced ginger. I've opted to go with 1 bit of ginger because I don't want it to be too spicy. But you can add more, of course. In go my other spices. My black peppercorns. And then my cloves. Notice that I have not added my Negro pepper. I'm not going to blend this with the other ingredients. I will be introducing it to the recipe much later on. Please stay tuned for that. Top up with a bit more millet and then add some water so that your millet is submerged, and go ahead and blend until smooth. This Jory blender is currently on special for the month of Ramadan. It is only available at the moment for Ghanaian residents. Please check out the link in my description for details. A good blender really goes a long way, especially during the month of Ramadan when we're blending things like beans and other grains to prepare our iftar. Once your millet and spices are well blended, go ahead and use a sieve with very fine holes to sift out the shaft from the starch. With your clean hands, go ahead and get in there and work out this millet. Squeeze it until you are left with the shaft and all the starch has made it into the bowl. Making cocoa is truly a labor of love, but it still stands as one of Ghana's most favorite porridges. Children love it, adults do too. It is highly nutritious and has a relaxing effect on people. Let me know in the comment section if you've ever been put to sleep after a nice warm bowl of cocoa. It definitely works like a sleeping tablet for me. Now that we have successfully extracted the starch, let's go ahead and strain our cocoa one more time to ensure that it's going to be extra smooth, and set the cocoa mixture aside to ferment overnight. Today is day 3, the final day of the cocoa making process, and hopefully today we get to enjoy some delicious cocoa. So before me I have my cocoa that has been sitting overnight. It has separated, the food part of it is at the bottom, and up top we have what we call roadside. This is the fermented water which we're going to use to prepare our cocoa. So first up, let's separate the water from the food. So I'm going to pour all the liquid part into this measuring cup. What is left now is the millet with all those spices. It smells like cocoa already. I can smell the ginger, the black pepper, the chilies, and the cloves. Some of this, the food, we call this kulun cocoa. I'm going to collect some of it to prepare some cocoa. Before me, I have a pot here. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 cup of water into this pot. About a 1/4 cup of this roadside. Add more of this roadside if you want a more fermented tasting cocoa, but I like mine a little less sour. And I think I'm going to go ahead with 1/2 cup of water. So in total, that's 1.5 cups of water and a 1/4 cup of roadside. At this point, I'm going to add my Negro pepper, also known as kimba, and I'm going to allow this to come to a rolling boil. In the meantime, we're going to prepare something called Gilaji. Gilaji is basically sweetened millet dumplings that we add to cocoa so that while you're drinking it, you have something sweet to chew on. My mom often prepares cocoa like this, and making it this way really makes me miss her a bunch. Here I have some of that kulun cocoa, and before me I have some millet powder. This is basically millet that has been grounded. So I'm going to add about 1.5 tablespoons to thicken it up, following some sugar. Gilaji is meant to be sweet. So I'm gonna mix this up. If I feel like it's too thick, I will add some water. But I think this is the perfect consistency. It's really coming together. In fact, a little bit more of this millet powder. Okay, That looks good. And now I'm gonna dip my fingers in this Gilaji mixture and bring it together. It's still a bit too wet for my liking, so, and a bit more millet in here. You want something like a dough-like consistency. Now it's a bit on the thick side, so I'm going to add some ruwan sami to loosen it up. Okay, now this is definitely workable. So with my fingers, I'm going to grab a bit and I'm going to roll it into a ball. There we have our Gilaji. So into the water it goes. Don't make them too big. I'm going to reduce that one. And I'm going to pop it in there. So repeat this until you have your desired amount of Gilaji. What you don't use, you can store in the fridge as well. So let's check in on our Gilaji. As you can see, it's coming together. It's already solidified. We're going to give it a few more minutes so that it's cooked all the way through before adding in our food part, which is the Koko. Again, it's been a few more minutes. Yes, this one is perfect. I'm going to turn off the heat, and here is our Koko. So this is the food itself. This is the cocoa itself. Add a little bit of water to this so that it becomes more pasty, and with the aid of my whisk, I'm going to whisk that until it loosens up, and add my Koko and whisk away. It's thickening up very, very quickly and is already forming the cocoa that we know. I'm going to turn on the heat just for a minute. Perfect, it's ready.
Serve your cocoa while it's still hot. Add your sweetener of choice. Today I'm adding some sugar. You may add honey, date syrup or stevia, whatever you prefer.
Our cocoa is ready. Let's give it a taste. Of course, with the Gilaji, my absolute favorite. Bismillah. Delicious. I hope you all enjoy this recipe. For me, there's no Ramadan without cocoa. It's an absolute staple during the month of Ramadan. I wish you all a blessed Ramadan. Barakah Mudaazimi in advance.
To store what you don't use, get some freezer bags and portion out your desired quantity of Koko as well as ruwan sami. Keep them all in the freezer to avoid further fermentation and bring them out to thaw perhaps the night before or in the morning for use. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this recipe so that I know to bring similar videos your way.
I'll catch you all in the next episode of Ramadan with ET.